When I reviewed Marvel's Avengers back in September last year, I praised it for having a really enjoyable campaign with excellent combat, while criticising it for its awful repetitive endgame content, being littered with bugs, and its seedy live service microtransactions. I finish by awarding the game a 7 out of 10 with the promise that this review score would be updated once we'd received some more content, as is often the case with ongoing games such as this. So here we are, 6 months later, and we've had 2 character expansions as well as a next gen upgrade. But have these additions helped or hindered Marvel's Avengers? And has my review score changed at all? Let's find out. Before I get any further into this review, just be aware that although I won't be talking about detailed story events, I also won't be going out of my way to completely avoid all spoilers, so if you're yet to play the expansions and wish to go in completely blind, then maybe check back in later.
Clint?
Katie, hey. Ow! I don't think the docs would approve.
I'm gone for 1 minute and you decide to wake up?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you should be.
Firstly, I want to talk about the next gen upgrade for PS5 and Xbox Series X. I've been playing the PS5 version, and for the most part, it's a big improvement. The first thing players will notice is that we are given a choice between highest performance or highest quality. It will be no surprise to anybody who has spent time with Marvel's Avengers that the biggest benefits come with the performance option, as that targets 60 frames per second over the quality setting that targets a natural 4K resolution. Having the game run at 60 FPS really helps with the manic combat and makes Avengers a much more enjoyable experience, especially when fighting a lot of enemies at once. On the PS4, I would often have to deal with frame rate dips dropping well below 30 frames per second, while the console would sound like it was about to take off whenever there was more than a handful of enemies to deal with at one time. Although the game sometimes struggles to stay at 60 FPS, the difference is borderline game changing and means the combat, which I already enjoyed before, is now even better when playing next gen. Not all the visuals are worthy of calling themselves next gen, however, with a lot of them still not even worthy of being labelled last gen. Certain textures still look blurry, some locations feel really rough, and extra characters who aren't lucky enough to be Avengers usually look like old beat up potatoes that would look out of place in a PS3 game. Outside of the visuals, long loading times are now a thing of the past. Remember those annoying slow-mo shots of each Avenger that you'd have to sit through while waiting to access the game? Well, those are completely gone on PS5. It's not as impressive as other next-gen titles which have eliminated load times entirely, as there are still a lot of moments where the game takes its sweet ass time to load a map, but it's a noticeable change nonetheless, and makes the experience a way better one for it. Elsewhere, there is use of the haptic feedback on the DualSense controller, but it's very basic and a little disappointing if I'm being honest, especially given that the 2 new characters are Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, and we don't even have any cool resistance effects on their bows. The frequent bugs that I would constantly encounter on the last gen version seem to have been ironed out as well. After a good 5 hours on PS5, I'm yet to have it snow indoors, or have my character become a floating costume, or fall through the floor, all of which were regular occurrences on the PS4. I have had one incident where I was stuck on a black screen while I could hear the action in the background carrying on without me, but given how buggy my experience was before this, I'll take that. The only real downside of upgrading to PS5, and this isn't an issue on Xbox as far as I'm aware, but let me know in the comments, is how complicated it is to transfer your save data across. It's not as simple as the game reading your PSN profile and just being ready to go. Instead, you need to go into your PS4 version of the game and upload the data and then download it again on the PS5 version. Now, that's not exactly complicated, but it does cause problems if you've already uninstalled your PS4 version and now need to make room for a 120GB download rather than a 75GB one, just to make a quick transfer. Oh, and this is of course even more frustrating when you take into account the limited storage on your PS5 anyway, so I'd highly recommend keeping the PS4 version on your PS4 for this exact reason if you can.
This is the stupid, messed up family I want to fight for.
Does that mean you're staying?
Yeah, I'm staying, man. Okay? And sorry, but you're not getting your room back.
I am more than okay with the couch. Unless that's the couch. Is that the couch?
So, the next gen upgrades are a pretty decent improvement, but what about the additional content? It's worth noting before I talk about Kate Bishop and Hawkeye that one of my main issues in my last review was how bad the endgame content was, and having to wait nearly 3 months for any new content whatsoever just highlighted that even more. It became so boring and repetitive that every one of our regular group of players had uninstalled the game well before Kate Bishop Taking Aim was finally released in December. Once it was out and Kate was officially in the team, things didn't really get any better. After months of suffering from endless aim hallways filled with the same aim robots again and again, we were greeted with, you guessed it, an infinite amount of aim robots to kill in the same damn aim hallways.
Oh, hey! What's up? What took you so long? Fighting robots? Ha! Me too. Oh, speaking of.
The story that accompanied the drab locations was okay, but it felt as if it had been written so that the developers could continue to recycle the same crap from the base game with the addition of a few new cutscenes to justify it as new content. This of course resulted in the gameplay being completely identical, as once again we were tasked with defending point A, B and C, or destroying point A, B and C time and time again. Thankfully though, Kate Bishop as a character is a joy to use, even if her dialogue does fall more on the side of cringy teen comedy than it does the typical MCU banter.
If I can't call you Katie, there's no way you get to call me Tony.
Old nicknames then? Iron Pants?
Nuh-uh.
Bucket Man?
No.
Tin Titan?
Kinda like that one.
So despite the first bit of additional content being an outright failure, at least the latest playable character was fun to use, I guess. Then came Hawkeye. This past month was his DLC, Future Imperfect. Now, I've seen this story get a lot of hate, but I'd be lying if I didn't admit to really enjoying it for the most part, and I think I know why. For better or for worse, Hawkeye's story just feels different. I've become so emotionally detached from Marvel's Avengers story, mostly due to it always being about some old bad guy stereotypes trying to do an evil thing with some soulless robots. Whereas Hawkeye's story straight away humanizes him. Whether that's due to interacting with actual civilians, which has been criminally a rarity in this game, or chasing after a stolen dog, it's just a refreshing change of pace that was much needed for me. The biggest breath of fresh air came when we finally got a brand new setting as Hawkeye and the Avengers travel forward in time to a post-apocalyptic world in hunt of Nick Fury. Okay, sure, it's still filled with endless amount of aim robots, but just seeing something new was enough to make me sit forward and pay attention again. I found the short and sweet story a lot more interesting than the Kate Bishop story, and although I didn't necessarily get all the answers I wanted, I can't help but feel it's all leading to something bigger and gives me hope for the future. There was also a lot less point A, B and C nonsense, so that was appreciated. Admittedly, it was only replaced with more fighting, but given Hawkeye plays just like Kate Bishop, only a bit better, I was more than okay with this change. As I just touched on, Hawkeye unsurprisingly feels like a clone of Kate, but his unique abilities, including a really handy healing circle, makes him a character who I can see myself using again and again in the future, especially if I can get that sweet ass Ronin outfit. Wait, I need to pay for it? Of course I bloody do.
Please don't tell me you left it in your apartment.
I have someone watching it, okay? Well, he's watching the dog, technically, but...
Let's go, Barton.
Well, okay, hey, you're gonna be embarrassed when you see how well I hit it.
To nobody's surprise, the endless amount of purchasable cosmetics are still constantly shoved down your throat and continue to leave a bad taste. It's only fair to point out, however, that both these DLCs were free, so maybe it's not quite as bad as the base game encouraging you to spend more money on your full price AAA game, but it's still not ideal. Elsewhere, There have been other minor improvements over the last few months, including new shortcuts in your bases to receive shield and inhuman faction missions a lot quicker, as well as just a tweak in layouts to cut time in walking between point A and B. There's also been some really questionable additions, such as the decision to slow down leveling, therefore meaning you must grind for longer if you want to level up your Avengers. Given that the majority of the missions are boring and repetitive anyway, this feels like a really dumb move in asking players to suffer for even longer if they want to even consider maxing out every Avenger, which is surely where the fun should be in a game like this, right? So, 6 months on from giving Marvel's Avengers a 7 out of 10, where do I stand now? There's no doubt been a few saving graces, the performance mode on the next gen version of the game being the standout for me, as it means I can enjoy the brilliant combat to its fullest. The most recent DLC was a lot of fun for me, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that it's left me wanting more and actually has me quite excited to see what the upcoming Black Panther expansion will be like, especially if it means we're finally moving away from fighting AIM. Having said all that, I can't forget the months and months of nothing that we had to endure and how disappointed I was by the Kate Bishop DLC, which felt lazy and insulting. Hell, even though I enjoyed the Hawkeye content, it was still under 2 hours, so maybe lazy is still applicable there too. It's thanks to the most recent update though that I'm still just about on board and willing to give the live service game one more chance. However, that doesn't mean I can ignore the fact that the negatives have outweighed the positives over the last 6 months, so as it stands, I'll be dropping my overall score for Marvel Avengers from a 7 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching this video review. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and hit subscribe as well because it helps out a lot. And if you want more Avengers, make sure to check out the website respawning.co.uk, where Luke recently did an article where he dives deeper into the Hawkeye DLC, so make sure to check that out. And to keep up with everything else we're doing, make sure you're following us on the socials by just searching Respawning UK on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram and you will find us there. Once again, thank you for watching, I've been Mikey, and I will catch you next time.